Hey everyone, and welcome back to OntarioCryptids. I hope you all had a great week. The cold spell continues here in TO, and we have received another dump of snow. Obviously, this is expected during the winter months. At this point, I just wish I had a snowblower to make my life a ton easier. Today we have 3 stories to share. We will be traveling to Washington State, Idaho, and Georgia to hear a motorist and 2 hunters' experiences. As you know, I'm always looking for great stories to be heard on this channel, so if you have a story that you would like to share in a safe environment, then forward your encounter stories to OntarioCryptids@gmail.com. Alright, I think you guys know the drill. Grab yourself a beverage and get cozy in your favorite spot and sit back and relax. All right, everybody, the first story takes place on November of 2020, and we're going to Grays Harbor County in the state of Washington, and the nearest town is Porter. Now, it looks like we have a river running through here, and I guess that's farmland. There looks to be some tracks on there. I'm guessing it's a farming vehicle that's harvesting crops. But yeah, let's get to the story. I got off work around 3:30 p.m. and was driving home. I was headed eastbound on Highway 12 in between Malone and Porter. I was about 5,200 yards west of the figure and saw something large and dark in color standing next to a tree up on a 15-foot hill. The edge of the hill was tree-lined with dense pine forest. It felt like slow motion as I was approaching the figure. I watched it make a 180 turn and walk back into the forest. The sighting only lasted about 3 seconds as I was traveling at 55 miles per hour, but felt like it lasted longer. The figure was very dark in color, but almost looked balding in some places on the body. The face looked close to a human and was lighter in skin color. I would say it was probably 6 feet tall with a slim but a muscular build. It wasn't very broad in the shoulders like we see in other photos. I could not see facial features very well other than lighter colors in the face, neck, and chest area. I know for certain this could not have been a human. I have family who live near the town of Porter, and they have a lot of open property behind their home that is lined with dense wooded forest, and they have always told me they occasionally hear strange howling at night, but that is not my story. That is only what I've been told. This encounter takes place on September 26, 2018. It takes place in Clearwater County, Idaho, and the nearest town is Headquarters. Now, if you take a look at this map, Headquarters is awfully small. I'm not sure of the population there, but if you look all around it, you see nothing but patches of forest surrounding Headquarters. I was archery hunting in Idaho, not far from Headquarters, Idaho, actually between Township Saddle and Township Butte, when I encountered something that I have never experienced before in the mountains. I heard something heavy running ahead of me to my left as I was walking an old railroad grade that has been used by four-wheelers. My first impression was it may have been an elk, but I didn't see what was making the sound. I had walked about a quarter mile from my partner and was closing in on an area where we had seen elk earlier in the week, and thought I would try to push ahead to get into the area I had seen the elk. I was walking very quietly when I heard a sound that I thought was a bird flying overhead. I looked up since the sound came from in front of me, when I heard something hit a tree and then the ground behind me. As I turned around, I noticed a branch on a small tree behind me that was moving as if something had hit it. Before I could walk back to the tree, which was only about 15 feet behind me, the branch had stopped moving. There was no wind, and it was very calm and very silent. When I got to the tree, the only thing that I found was a large chunk of bark that was laying on the ground. I found this to be unusual since it came off a large tree such as a ponderosa pine, as the bark was about 14 inches long, about 6 inches across, and about 2.5 inches thick. This area has been logged in the last 40 years, and there was no trees in the area with a girth which would produce a bark of this size. At this point, it was getting late in the evening, so I decided to head back to the four-wheeler and my hunting partner. I called him on the radio to see where he was. He said he was waiting for me at the four-wheeler, still about a quarter-mile away from me. I found nothing else in the trail which would have produced this sound and was wondering if this could fall into the phenomena of others who have experienced similar situations. I was a bit cautious as I walked back down the trail, but I heard or seen no other anomalies. All right, so this is the last story of the day. This one takes place November of 2009, and we're going to Wilkinson County, Georgia for this last story. If you take a look at the region that they're in, this looks like a perfect hunting area. I had belonged to a hunting club for a couple of years. One morning, I took my son hunting with me, who was 8 years old at the time. I had several places on the property I could go that morning, and I decided to go where I always saw something, some turkeys, hogs, and deer. Deer was what I was hunting, and this spot I'd been to several times and always saw something. This location we called the island because it was surrounded by water, and the only way to get there is by ATV or a UTV. The location of the island was approximately half the hunting club and was part of the swamp. It also butted up to a state park called Ball's Ferry. So my son and I parked the ATV about 300 yards from the blind where we were hunting out of. I will go ahead and add this. As soon as I stepped off the ATV, something did not feel right, like we were being watched. I was waiting for us to spot another hunter back there, but never saw one. While we were in the blind that morning, it was strange that we didn't see anything. It was very quiet. All I remember is hearing the wind blow occasionally. Around 9:30, we gave up and walked back to the ATV. I have a gun holder on the front of my ATV, and I put my rifle up front, snugged down. We started heading out, and about halfway out, I noticed my rifle getting loose on the front, so I decided to stop in a clearing that I'd say was about 120 yards wide and 80 yards long. I turned my ATV off while my son stayed on. I eased up to the front of my ATV and was securing my rifle. As I got done, I turned and was about to get back on my ATV, and this is when I heard a gorilla-like sound, except the sound was much deeper. It was almost as though you could feel the sound. I did not know what to think of it. My son looked at me with fear, and let me tell you, I was okay at first, but when this thing made that sound 4 more times, I was terrified. I didn't want my son to know I was terrified, but I jumped on the ATV. I was cranking it while I jumped in gear. I went as fast as I could on that thing. I looked back to see whatever this thing was, to see if it was chasing us, but all I saw was some tops of the pine trees moving, and each top I saw was moving away from us. On my way back to camp, I was trying to figure out what I heard. Never in a million years did Sasquatch cross my mind. Then I thought someone was messing with us, but as soon as I got to camp, I saw everybody was there. So I knew it wasn't them. And also, if it was, how were they even making that sound? Immediately, they knew something was wrong. And I told them what I heard, and they were trying to figure out the sound we had heard. There was this guy who had been a member there for years and told me to sit down, that he wanted to tell me something that happened to him and another guy hunting a couple of years before. To make a long story short, from what he told me, is they went out one morning to hunt. He got in his tree stand and the other guy went into his tree stand, and 45 minutes later, the guy was running back to him looking over his shoulder like something was chasing him. Anyways, they rushed back to the truck, and on the way out of there, the guide tells him that he saw what was supposed to be a myth, a Sasquatch. The guy doesn't go into the woods at dark if he goes hunting, and he tells me the guy has never been back there hunting. To me at the time, after receiving this information, I shrugged it off, thinking to myself that no way this was true, and that is not what I heard. So for the next 3 years, I kind of blocked it out of my mind. I also never went back hunting to this place. I knew whatever this was, it wasn't good. The sound I heard was in the back of my mind, but I didn't want to accept it. Fast forward 4 years, I was scrolling through YouTube watching some videos. I've always enjoyed Survivorman with Les Stroud, so I started watching an interview with him. He was in Alaska, and he had the same thing happen to him with the same sound I heard. That got me interested, so I started watching more videos on Sasquatch. On this one video, halfway through it, they were playing some sounds of Sasquatch that had been recorded during the night. That's when I heard it, the sound that my son and I had heard at the hunting club. I could feel the hair on the back of my neck rise up, and a chill came over me. At that moment, I started being a believer. The next day, I showed the video to my son, who was 16 at the time, and he also recognized it to be the sound that we heard. Ever since then, I've had an open mind, and before that, I always thought Sasquatch was a myth. So here's another 3 great stories for everyone. I hope you guys enjoyed it. One of the stories reminded me of my own experience, where my nephew and I had our attention diverted by something being thrown at a tree. In any case, these were great stories. The last one, it seems like a lot happens to hunters out there. If you recall, the second story was a bow hunter, and then the last one, they were hunting for, I think they were hunting for elk. And that seems to be when we hear of folks having the most encounters. Bow hunters and elk hunters. Why? I have no idea. But in any case, I hope you guys truly enjoyed these. And if these stories reminded you of an encounter that you may have had and would like to share, then please forward your stories to OntarioCryptids@gmail.com. Now, these stories do not have to be necessarily Sasquatch related. They can be dogman, UFO, paranormal, whatever it is that you've had happen to you. In any case, I would be more than honored to share your stories on this channel. So thank you all for listening until the end. I truly appreciate it. Please hit that like button on your way out and smash that subscribe button if you're new to my channel. Again, guys, I want you all to have a great weekend, and I hope to see you all next week right here on Ontario Cryptids.